Brooks live from Los Angeles, where it's the coldest day of the year. It actually is. It's so cold today, folks, here in LA, that not once, twice, I pulled into a gas station because I'm about to run out of gas because I'm a dummy, right? Coming to the show. And I had to get back into my car and not even take the time to put the gas into the car because it was so effing freezing. Now, that's because of the wind, but that's how cold it is today. And I'm not kidding around. Coldest day of the year here in Los Angeles. The day after Super Bowl Sunday, my Chiefs win. Thank God I was wrong. And we're going to talk about it, a very, very, very special edition, Sports by Brooks on Fancred, with our first ever sports media roundtable with two guys from thebiglead.com. Thebiglead.com. If you don't know about it, go there. Great way to keep track of what's going on in the world of sports. That's Bobby Burak and Ryan Glassspiegel. And as we've spoken to Bobby about this many times, we have two guys from the Big Lead who are leading breaking news guys in sports media. In fact, there really aren't many. I mean, we have all those guys on this show, as you guys know by now. But we also have guys who happen to have, I think, probably the best Twitter handle in sports media. Sports Rapport. That's Ryan Glassspiegel. Sports Rapport, one word. All right? I don't have to spell that for you. You're smart enough to get it. That's Ryan's Twitter handle. And we have the worst Twitter handle. As you guys, we've long discussed this, and Bobby actually would tell us that. He's coming up with this with Ryan, and that would be Bobby Burak. It's Bobby, B-U-R-A-C-K, one word, and then inexplicably an underscore. Why would you do that? So I'm not going to ask Bobby to explain it again because that'll take up the whole show. But those guys are going to come on together. That's why I said it's a very special edition of Sports by Brooks on Fancred. Our producer is always Cam Smith. And it's so funny how I'm sitting there texting with friends yesterday. And the moment I announced to everybody I know, okay, game over. The 49ers have won this game. It was like early in it was like midway through the third quarter. Or was it? It was later than that. But the second I said that, it was before the hang time pass, the backyard pass by Pat Mahomes that, changed the game completely. It was before that, right before that. I told everybody, okay, the game is over. The 49ers are going to, you just might as well go to Smart and Final and get some shopping in while you have a chance, right? The second I tweet that out, boom, here comes Mahomes. Here comes the Chiefs. And I should have saw it coming because, hey, Kyle Shanahan was busy telling us the whole game, Jimmy G sucks. That was Kyle Shanahan, the 49ers coach. It was. How do I know that? Because remember that possession at the end of the first half, right? How many examples do you have to know that when you get the ball against the Chiefs, I don't care if there's 0.1 seconds left on the clock, you try to score because there's no such thing as protecting a lead against Pat Mahomes. You can't protect the lead. It's whoever has the ball last or just outscores the other team. Defense, while it plays a role, it's not ever going to be the primary thing in a game in which Pat Mahomes participates. Now, I was a dummy. I didn't see it at the time either. But when you have a possession at the end of the first half and you've got a minute and a half and you got all your damn timeouts, are you kidding me? And the 49ers, well, it was actually like Andy Reid was managing the clock. Complete, clueless, disaster. Because they initially say, all right, we're just going to run the clock out. We're not going to do anything. And everybody, of course, on Twitter and on the broadcast, what are they doing? Guys, Do you understand? You're not going to protect the lead here. This is not one of those, where we're going to slice the garlic really, really thin and get away with it things, And then, we get a big gainer on the run game. We get this big pass play. Now we're going to hurry up, and then it's too late. But the overriding point here is, all right, here's the key. Kyle Shanahan, it's not so much what he's telling the world, it's everything in what he's telling his own quarterback and his team. The fact that I don't have the faith in my quarterback and my team, my offense, that we're going to be able to move the ball down the field and get in position to score with all our timeouts, just under 2 minutes to go, right? We're just going to run the clock out? What? What is Shanahan telling his team? He's telling him the defense is going to have to win this game, right? Our offense sucks. Our quarterback sucks. I don't trust him. That's what Kyle Shanahan told Jimmy G by freezing the ball at the end of the first half, period. And that was the beginning of the end. The other thing is, and I think a key point in the game was with about 8 minutes to go, and this is, now I remember, this is about the time I'm sending out the tweets. Oh, it's all over. After the Niners scored. When the Chiefs get the ball back, how many times do you see a team in the same position the Chiefs were in with about 8 minutes to go, where they're not in a rush? They're not hurrying up, even though they should. And the announcer invariably says, boy, they're taking their time. I don't know what they're doing. Right. How many times have you heard that? What did Pat Mahomes do? He could not have been in a bigger hurry. Right. And I think to myself, this guy's a coach on the field right there. That's, I think, when you look, and before that, all the problems that Pat Mahomes had during the game, I would say every single one, those were not unforced errors. If you look at the second pick, everybody's saying, why did he throw that pick? That's not like him. He threw it right into coverage. It made sense because he was about to get guillotined by the 49ers, pass rush. And so rather than take the sack, he threw the ball into coverage. But that had been happening the whole game. It was 1 on 11. Really 1 on 11. It was like Thermopylae. That's what it reminded me of. And Pat Mahomes was the 300 up to that point. But all along the way, if you look at his big miscues, so-called miscues, they were forced errors. They were not unforced. Not that I saw, and going back over the tape and the film, but in telling the world he had no confidence in Jimmy G and his offense at the end of the first half, right? What does that do for Jim? And not that you should be going through this. If you're in the Super Bowl by now, you shouldn't have to worry about your quarterback's confidence. But obviously there wasn't much with Jimmy G. I would have liked to have thought that wasn't an issue before the game. I kind of believe that myself, that Garoppolo was above that. He wasn't. The other big thing was there wasn't a coherent offensive game plan by the Niners. Right? I mean, you saw how well they ran the football. I think it was like one series with the zone blocking scheme and the different running backs, and they were rotating guys. Yeah, and then they go away from it again. What are you doing? Come on. Shanahan blew the game, period. There he is, Bobby Burak. All right. How you doing, Bobby?
Brooks, I'm looking over the schedule here. You brought backup today. I know things got a little heated between you and I last time, but you brought in a colleague of mine?
No, we're going to tag team. We're going to do some tagging off the top rope. And we got into, well, it's funny that I mentioned that because he's probably the number one wrestling expert in the sports media. So that would make sense. No, it's ridiculous. I thought it'd be fun to have all you guys on and kick it around. No, I love it. Hey, Ryan, what's going on, bud?
Hey, how's it going?
It's going great. So we got Bobby, and we got Bobby Burak, and we got Ryan Glassbeagle of The Big Lead in a special sports media roundtable. This is like a Richard Deitch edition, memorial edition of Sports by Brooks on Fancred with the whole roundtable principle. But I really appreciate you guys coming on. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely.
So first of all, I want to get your impressions of the game. I just went on for about 10 minutes about it, but Ryan, let's start with Ryan. Ryan, what did you think of the game?
It was a big building block for Patrick Mahomes' legacy. I mean, you look at that defense that he erased a 10-point deficit against, and look, I know Aaron Rodgers, he won a Super Bowl in his third year as a starter. He hasn't gotten back since. Nobody probably would have believed that in early 2011, but right now it feels like an anointing Holmes era. Now, what I think is going to be really interesting with as far as the Chiefs go is they're going to have to start paying him $40 million a year. So are they going to be able to maintain a great rest of the roster once they have to pay him his fair worth?
Bobby, any thoughts on the Super Bowl? I would hope.
You know, Brooks always bringing thoughts, but if you were to ask the NFL, what's the best case scenario for them this season? I don't know how they could script it any better. This is the best player in the NFL who, like Ryan said, just started a new chapter of his legacy. And here's what's so great about Mahomes. He didn't just win this easily doing what he usually does and in Sports Center top 10 moments. He overcame adversity. 3 straight games, he came back down double digits. And that was against, in my opinion, the best defense in the NFL. In the fourth quarter, they didn't have much answer for him. That's a big moment in Mahomes' career. I already thought he was the best. Now it's not even a discussion. It's over.
Visiting with Bobby Burek and Ryan Glassspiegel of The Big Lead now, and I'm going to give you the floor on the broadcast, and then I'm going to start throwing things out, and we'll start mixing it up here. But I wanted to get your thoughts now on the broadcast. Bobby, we'll start with you. What did you think of the actual Fox broadcast of the game?
Yeah, they do the best job in the business, right from top to bottom. Joe Buck, to me, I've said before, I think he is the number one talent in the entire business. Ryan probably agrees with me. I just think his value is immeasurable. He has great chemistry with Troy Aikman. In the pregame show with Fox, I'm not just saying this, I just talked to Kurt Menefee and tweeted it out, but I think their pregame show is light years ahead of the rest of them. The entire cast is great. Even the pregame show.
Now, why? But give me a reason. Give me one example why.
It's loose. It's fun. It's 80% ad lib. It's informative with Jay Glazer. He always has news on these pregame shows. Terry Bradshaw is the most entertaining football voice on Sundays. Strahan's the superstar. Tony Gonzalez is fit right in. Jimmy Johnson. He always has insight that you can't find elsewhere.
Consistency too. It's consistent.
Yeah. I don't think there's been any change the past 12 years outside of moving Tony Gonzalez in for Jimmy Johnson after the pregame show concludes on Sunday. Outside of that, it's been the same cast for over a decade.
What did you think of the broadcast?
It's been that long that Menefee, since he replaced James Brown, doesn't.
I believe the last move was Strahan 12 years ago.
Wow, that is pretty.
And Ryan, I mean, what was your thought on the broadcast?
Yeah, it's like weird because we have to like live blog anything important that happens. You don't get to like kind of pay as much attention to like every announcing nuance as I'd like to. But I think Buck and Aikman do a great job. I agree. Buck is a splendid talent. I think for NFL, I might still go Al Michaels over him by a smidge, but when you add in the fact that Buck also does the World Series, that is a whole lot of value on his ledger. I think Fox did a really good job. It's like, people nitpick that the post-game interviews with Aaron Andrews and Chris Myers didn't go that smoothly. Andrew Marchand, who's a friend of mine, wrote a column about that. I don't know. It's just like, it's so hard to do that stuff. And so I'm just inclined to say, like, I really enjoyed the telecast. It was a great NFL game. It was a great NFL season. And I think Fox did a great job of, like, kind of just putting an exclamation point.
Visiting with Bobby Burek and Ryan Glassspiegel with The Big Lead. All right, let's talk about the announcers. At least I agree. I think Joe Buck is kind of beyond reproach. I love him. I love the fact that in the midst of all the hype, he is the calm. And I think to a certain extent, Aikman brings that. But Bobby, I want to go to you on this one first, and Ryan, I want to get your thoughts on it. Aikman You know, he is what he is. And there's kind of this underlying speculation about him every year. Okay, is he going to stick around? What's going to happen? Why do we, or maybe it's just me, why is there speculation about his future? And what do you think more specifically about Aikman, how he does in the booth, maybe compared to a Tony Romo?
Yeah, the one criticism, it's not even a criticism, but I would say the difference between last year and this year was not having Romo in the booth. Troy Aikman, I would say he's probably the second best football color commentary, but there's a gap between he and Romo. Romo's just on another level right now. I miss not having Romo. But as far as Buck speculation, some of that, or Aikman speculation, that's his own fault. He just said in an interview a month ago that he could see himself and he has aspirations to be an NFL GM. So he's putting that out there. This isn't people just making up headlines. He said on record he would like to be an NFL GM. I don't think he's as good as he once was. He has some early season blunders, particularly on a Thursday night football game when he just seemed totally lost at the clock. He wanted a team to call it, run the ball, and they had no timeouts left, about 22 seconds left. I think he has downgraded some, but he still does a good job. I talked to Michael McCarthy this past summer on a podcast. He's not ruling out the chances of Aikman one day soon joining Fox's studio program in Los Angeles, where he wouldn't have to travel to a game now twice a week on Thursdays and Sundays. He could stay in the studio show in Los Angeles. That would make sense to me, depending on his future. I don't see Romo going to Fox. There was some talk a year ago that people can see that. I don't see that. I think Aikman still has a couple of years left. And from everything I've been told, Buck and him are really close friends, and Buck does not want him leaving.
Ryan, go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, I'll add on that. Like, there's been speculation, like as far as you're saying, like about whether he would do it longer. I do think that speculation is born out of his own preferences as opposed to the network's preferences.
Agreed, by the way.
He is a 3-time Super Bowl winning quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. Fox puts a big premium up and down their dial on people who were champions, whether that's in their MLB coverage or their NFL coverage or their college football coverage. You look at all of their personalities, and they really like having people who won championships in their respective sports. Aikman's also telegenic. It's the sense that those Thursday night weeks, those 12 or 13 weeks in the middle of the season where he's doing Thursday and Sunday, I have no idea what his financial situation is. Obviously, he played a little bit before playing salaries exploded to the way they are now. Like Patrick Mahomes made make more in a year or two on his next deal than Aikman made in his whole career. But you've got to assume that he's got just about enough money that he wants to live the rest of his life with. And so it's a matter of what he wants to do. And going into the studio is a lot less physically and intellectually taxing than calling 2 games under immense public spotlight per week. And so I think that if he does switch off of games, it's going to be his own preference as opposed to
who replaces him, Ryan, if he does move on.
It's really too soon to know, but Drew Brees and Phillip Rivers are going to be coveted. I've been saying that for about a year. I think Olsen is a number 2 or number 3 NFL guy, maybe a top college football guy for Fox, but he's like, as I said before, Fox really, really, really puts a premium
on the resume of guys. Yeah.
Who are all-time greats and who are champions. And look, Greg Olsen is a very good player. Maybe he'll get in a Hall of Fame discussions, but he's not somebody that he's not like Tony Gonzalez, where you say he's the best ever to play the position, and he's not a Super Bowl champion. So I guess Rivers isn't either, but Brees is. I could see Brees as a possibility.
Here we go. Here come the Packers. You knew it was coming. I knew it was coming with Ryan.
What about Aaron Rodgers if he decides to go into the booth in like 3 or 4 years?
Yeah. Totally. I totally agree with you.
He's
No,
so
let's say
unlikable. I do not want to
3-4
hear him
years from
talking.
now, he
There's
retires. You don't
there's
think
these
he's going to
athletes
be
like Kevin
coveted
Durant,
by
LeBron James,
every
Aaron
network?
Rodgers, now Tom Brady tweeting out some picture Thursday night for a cry for attention. I just get so sick of these guys. I do not want to hear Aaron Rodgers talking over any football game, not even his own post game.
But I think that he could theoretically be an unbelievable announcer, because I think he gets short shrift for the commercials. I think he's a good actor. I really enjoy him to a certain extent. I don't know why. He's got kind of a strange background off the field. Maybe Ryan's going to push back on that. But it's an interesting question because we spend so much time booger this, booger that, Monday Night Football, what's going to happen, but we don't really talk about kind of the elephant in the room that is Troy Aikman, I think, to a certain extent.
Well, it's because I think we all think that even if he might privately complain about the kind of rigors of the work, complain. Basically, the question is going to be in the booth isn't a question of him. It's a question of how much longer Terry Bradshaw is going to be on their main studio show. And so when Bradshaw decides to move on, I think that they have Aikman to plug him into the studio, and then they have to go get.
So, Ryan, you're chopping up a little bit on your cell. If you could see if you could move around a little bit and maybe try to get a better cell, that would be great. Okay. And so
All right, I'll be right back.
We're going to hang in there. We'll hang in. We'll get him. And Bobby, so as we've been discussing this, I want to start to get into some of the issues around the Super Bowl that I know you'll love. I know they're in your wheelhouse. And I'm not so sure you'll love them, but I want to hear what you think, because these are the kinds of issues that I think of you when I read them or I hear about them. And one of them that has come out of the Super Bowl. And by the way, if you think that, before we're off here today, if you think that we're missing something, I want you to let me know. Jump in and let me know if I'm missing a really big part of this. But I'm interested to hear what you think about the Jay-Z Beyonce thing. Did you get a chance to see that? And the fact that they were sitting down, I don't know if you saw the video, but just what's your overview? What are your thoughts when you saw the fact that, video is out there? I've seen it. It was on TMZ. Jay-Z, Beyonce were sitting during the national anthem during the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it all goes back to, why is the media talking about it? Why give attention to a subject nobody wants to see, hear about, or read about? To me, it's irrelevant. A couple of celebrities go to a football game and they don't want to take part in the national anthem. Who cares? That's their prerogative. The fans don't want it. We saw with the ratings. The NFL fans, football fans in general, they don't care about your political preferences, your thoughts on social issues. To me, it was, again, just like Tom Brady, them trying to get attention. I could care less about it. I think if the media is going to talk about it, it goes back to everything I've been saying with the media for about 2 years now. I mean, it's embarrassing. There's so many storylines we can be talking about right now. Mahomes' legacy, them repeating his contract, Jimmy Garoppolo. If people want to talk about Jay-Z, Beyonce, and their daughter,
all that said, I hear you, but let me just make one quick point. It's kind of the obvious point. Then, are you against the political ads that we had during the Super Bowl? Should we not ban those political ads as well?
I don't know. I mean, I think it's a little different. It's not really on the game. It's not like they had them in the stadium. They were during the commercials, so I didn't really have a problem with it. I just think in stadium, you don't need that stuff. Plus Jay-Z looks like kind of a hypocrite here. I just thought the whole thing was irrelevant, and I see TMZ's making a big deal about it. I don't think it's a story because they're not involved in the game, and I'm sure all football fans like myself don't want to hear about it or care about Jay-Z and Beyonce's political preferences.
Ryan, what I just asked Bobby, we're stirring it up already, but what about the TMZ video that I don't know if you've seen, but the Jay-Z and Beyonce sitting during the national anthem? What are your thoughts on that?
I disagree with Bobby. It's definitely news because Jay-Z is somebody who has like a big long-term contract with the NFL. They signed that as partly as a way to try to undo some of the damage in minority communities that's been done by Colin Kaepernick being out of the league for the last several years. And so Jay-Z, like, he's involved with the Super Bowl halftime show. He's in some
he
ways
made it happen.
I mean, league. Like he wants to buy a franchise, and so him sitting down for the national anthem is, in some ways, I think can be construed as a sign of solidarity with Colin Kaepernick, and just another sign that story, as much as Bobby or the NFL may prefer, is just not going to go away.
Look, it's been a disaster for the NFL trying to get halftime shows. Okay. The reason they got J-Lo and Shakira is Jay-Z, period. That's why it happened. This is my opinion, but that's why they brought him into the fold. And of course, Jay-Z, I think, ultimately wants to own an NFL team, and he wants to get his foot in the crack in the door. So I do think it's a big story. Here's what I wanted to mention, though, and Bobby and Ryan, maybe you guys as Americans, we can kind of all speak to this, and we all have maybe our own opinions, but if you saw the video, and I know you did, Beyonce was kind of she wasn't dancing, but she was singing, right? And it was almost as if she wasn't protesting in a sense. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe they're in a suite. They don't know people are filming them, or maybe they're in this posh position.
Everything they do is carefully planned. They don't do anything by accident. Every moment of their day
was the filming planned. You think that's so-called stealth filming? Do you think that's staged?
It was an opportunity for them in some order to get attention and to also call attention to a cause that they believe in but may not want to speak expressively about.
What do you think about that? Do you think it was done deliberately, Bobby, or do you think that maybe they were just in a suite and they weren't thinking anybody was going to be filming them? So we'll just have a seat.
Oh, 100% they knew about it. These people crave attention for all the wrong reasons. They came into the game wanting to do this. I mean, this they had this plan probably for a while now. And I just think football fans, I'll just speak for myself. I'd be offended if I'm in the stands paying money and they're trying to take the pressure away and the buzz away from the game to make their stand. I mean, do they not see how much the fans didn't like when Colin Kaepernick, Eric Reed, and the rest of them did this? The Bennett brothers, and Jay-Z wants to own a team. If I'm Roger Goodell and the other owners, I do everything I can to not let him own a team because he's going to do more of this.
Right. Visiting with Bobby Burak and Ryan. Ryan, do you have any thoughts? Any follow-up on that?
Look, here's the thing. I think there's a divide in terms of how people feel about the anthem protests. And by and large, a lot of fans who either were I guess at this point you're pretty old if you served in World War II, but there's a big amount of the NFL viewing public that were raised by people who did fight in World War II. And point of the American flag, I think, is a little bit different than people who are my age or even your age, Brooks. And so I understand why these people who were directly connected to soldiers who fought off pure evil in World War II would think that the people in America today who may not have to quite make those same sacrifices are being ungrateful towards the troops that came before them. But I also understand that people in minority communities are not treated with the same dignity by the police that some of us are used to. And so it's a really complicated issue that we could probably talk for several hours about. And I don't think Bobby and I would ever agree, but I don't think he's not changing my mind. I'm not changing his, but I understand the reason that Jay-Z and Beyonce did it. I understand the reason that Colin Kaepernick melted. If Kaepernick was as good as Patrick Mahomes, I don't think he would be kept out of the league. But this story has been very long adjudicated.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing for me, guys, and why I love having you on, literally, is nobody's having this conversation. Nobody's having a conversation where we have two sides of it, and you can learn in one sitting how people feel about it. And so I have another thing I want to bring up to you. I know you guys know who Howard Bryant is. Howard Bryant, the celebrated author, wrote Hank Aaron's biography. I don't need to tell you. You guys know who Howard Bryant is.
Bobby's
you think I'm going to throw
fan of his tweets?
Right. Yeah, well, he's amazing because he's the guy who'll do hockey, he'll do tennis, but I think he is a misunderstood figure. This is my opinion because he is a very fact-based guy. I mean, he just is. If you've read his books, and he is a moderate guy. I think people misrepresent him. He's been on this show, and I don't think he gets enough credit now. But I want to read a tweet that he sent out 13 hours ago, and I want to get your response. And I have a response on this too, because these are the conversations I think we should be having much more so. And we're not going to get them on ESPN. We're not going to get this on Fox or ESPN. I think these conversations are important because I want to know how you feel and Ryan feels, and I'm sure you guys feel the same way. Well, maybe you don't, but about me. But so here's the tweet, and Bobby, I'll go to you first because I want to hear what your response, your reaction is to this. Howard Bryant tweets, quote, "If it's true, the entire broadcast on Fox never mentioned Colin Kaepernick's name, that requires the willful cooperation of the entire machine, the league, broadcast partners, and the individual announcers." So one more time. If it's true, the entire Fox broadcast never mentioned Cap's name. This is the Super Bowl he's talking about. That requires the willful cooperation of the entire machine, league, broadcast partners, the individual announcers. My quick thought on it, Bobby, is I really don't. That sounds a little bit like it's conspiratorial. I don't think it's conspiratorial. I think we're to the point where we just don't think about it. Those people that are on those broadcasts are involved in that way. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, you started that by saying you think Howard Bryant's fact-based. I don't find him fact-based at all. I think that he pushes a ton of conspiracies, as do a lot of people on social media with ESPN. Brooks, let me ask you this.
You're the bomb thrower.
And I would ask Howard Bryant this. When's the last time a quarterback was so bad they got benched for Blaine Gabbert? Okay. They should be mentioned on a broadcast.
That's not a real argument. He's good enough to be in the league. He's good enough to be on a roster. Is he being blackballed?
No,
he's being blackballed.
No, I've always said he's not good enough to outweigh the distraction he brings. Like if Aaron Rodgers,
that is fair. Now that's fair.
Kaepernick's not good enough. He's a distraction. If he would just kept his mouth shut, done his job, and was a decent quarterback, he'd have a job. When you decide to be a distraction, which is that's his right, whatever, if you have to do that, fine. But you have to deal with the consequences that he's not good enough to make that stance. Eric Reed was probably good enough to make that stance for a time. That's what it comes down to. I mean, listen, this is the United States, America. He can make that stance, but he wasn't good enough to make that stance. Right. That was going to cause backlash. So for Howard Bryant to say that, that's just a conspiracy. I don't know where he's getting that from.
Ryan, before I get your thoughts on it, go ahead.
Here's the thing: the last, these broadcasts are full of memories of the last time these franchises were in the Super Bowl or previous times. So
ding.
Joe Montana and Steve Young, which I don't even know they did. I assume they did. I assume they mentioned the Chiefs in Super Bowl IV and
Lenny Dawson.
You gotta mention even if they don't go into a longer conversation, you do show, last time the 49ers were here, they had that blackout game with the Ravens, blew a big lead, maybe make a parallel to the double-digit lead that they blew last night. But I do think it was probably a direct edict not to mention him. They didn't mention him during the NFC title game against the Packers either, and it was the same type of reaction of people being up in arms. I was in the room at Fox Sports Media Day last week where Eric Shanks, head of Fox Sports, said everything that we do in our broadcast is going to celebrate football and celebrate America. If it doesn't celebrate football and doesn't celebrate America, we're not going
Who's
to
America?
And so
who's America?
Look, that's up for a matter of interpretation. Here's the thing. They definitely didn't mention Kaepernick on purpose. Now you can argue on whether that is the right editorial and the right business decision on their part. But I do think that Bryant is right that it involved kind of an intentional sequence of events and many, many meetings to come to that conclusion. And then you can decide whether you think that's right or wrong.
Bobby, I think the point here is when you look at the San Francisco-Baltimore game going down to the final play, and then you watch them showing Len Dawson, Hank Stram footage, the whole freaking game from 1902, and we're not getting anything from the last time the 49ers were in the Super Bowl, that's kind of the whole point. And I tend to lean towards Ryan on this, that this was a concerted effort to leave Colin Kaepernick out.
I never thought about Kaepernick at all watching that game. He's not a part of the 49ers history.
I don't disagree with you. I didn't think about Len Dawson. I didn't think about Len Dawson either, but they put him on the screen.
Why would you put the most controversial figure in all of sports in the Super Bowl when you have probably 100 million people watching, and probably at least half of them don't want to hear about his political stance?
You don't have to even mention his political stance. Just show them, show highlights of the blackout in the game.
But
the inanimate documented fact. I mean, Bobby.
You think of the national anthem protest. That's what he's made his brand, again, by choice. He didn't give him that. He made it.
Bobby, but here's my thing, Bobby, then. If you're not going to show the last time this is just a basic thing. This is not showing Colin Kaepernick. This could be just showing a highlight of a play. You're not even focused on the guy. If you're going to show Len Dawson and the 1906 Kansas City Chiefs and Hank Stram
they had to have shown Steve Young and Joe Montana, right?
Right, which they did, right? But we're not going to see the last time the 49ers were in the Super Bowl. So my point is, if you're not going to show the Niners then why are we seeing the Chiefs? Should we not show the Chiefs in their past Super Bowl appearance, Bobby? Because I think that's what should have happened if they weren't going to show the Niners. Why show the Chiefs? Because more people remember the last time the Niners were in the Super Bowl as opposed to the Chiefs?
But you think that they sat in a room and said, let's not show this game?
Yes,
I do.
If they did that, I wouldn't blame them, but I don't believe they did that because, again, he's the most controversial figure in sports. I have a hard time believing they sent down a memo to Fox saying, don't talk about Colin Kaepernick, don't show his game. I don't believe
put it in writing. I can tell you that. These happen in face-to-face meetings with no documentation. There's no way it was sent as an email.
How is what Howard Bryant said not a conspiracy? What is he backing that up with?
To be quite honest, I'm just going to be honest. It is a conspiracy. There are a bunch of people that have to be part of not just putting. I'm not talking about Kaepernick. Forget about him for a second. Just putting the 49ers team on the screen during the game, for that not to be on the screen. And we're looking at Hank Stram 46 times. Come on. I mean, there has to be a concerted effort not to do that.
I disagree. I mean, I don't think there's any proof that they did that. I think that Howard Bryant, his followers, and people on Twitter, social media, they want to believe that because we all know that people want to find reasons to root against the NFL. You see it on Twitter today. People are talking about the NBA trade deadline, about irrelevant players. People in the media want to bash the NFL. This is just another layer of that, nothing more.
We're visiting. Boy, you were right, Brian. We're just not going to be able to win him over today, no matter how many times we team up, right? According to Bobby. When Bobby came on before you got on, you're going after him. Go ahead.
He went from saying he would understand why they would do the conspiracy to just saying I don't think they did it.
I don't think they did, but if they did, I wouldn't have
problem with it. Howard Bryant does, and you're making
that's why. None of us have any evidence, so I'm going to give the NFL the benefit of the doubt.
It's common sense that they had meetings and decided it would be more divisive to show him than it would be worth it in terms of documenting the 49ers Super Bowl history, and we're just going to stay away from him altogether. It was a conscious decision that was made.
Right. And I, by the way, and I don't want to make this all about Kaepernick, but here, let me ask you guys a question. When you look at Kaepernick not playing on a team today, right, not being on a roster, and Bobby, I get your point that it would be a big distraction, and there is some substance to the idea that he's not good enough to make up for that, because if Antonio Brown is working out with the Saints, I think it just goes to show you how bloodless and pragmatic coaches are. And if Kaepernick was in that category of a transcendent talent, I have to believe a Peyton or a Belichick or somebody would be working Cap out. Right. So I'm not disagreeing with you. That said, he's good enough. Let me just say this.
He's better than most NFL backups and probably like
and starters.
4 or 5 NFL starters. I mean,
would you agree with on Bobby?
He's
would you agree
probably
with
somewhere around like between the 35th and 40th best quarterbacks in the world.
Yeah, I've always said he's not good enough to outweigh the distraction that comes with having him on the team. To me, that's always been the story. And people that are trying to make him more of that, I just don't understand. He's not good enough to outweigh the massive distraction that he would be no matter where he goes. Right. I don't think he's worth it. But yeah, is he better than what the Packers had a couple of years ago when they went with like Deshaun Kaiser? Sure.
Well, but I mean, look at this Jets this year. I mean, but here's one point I want to drive home to you guys. Just my kind of final word on this thing is, if that's the case, well, the NFL's not all about winning, because they want us to believe that there's no politics in who plays. We're just about winning. And that's bullshit. There is politics. You're not all about winning. You know, it's not a coincidence.
I argued that with McCarthy and the Packers when they were playing like Brett Hundley, who's just a disaster, and like squandering what they had built, which was a playoff contending team, because they didn't want to answer questions about him. And so, yeah, there are circumstances where teams have acted in what isn't their own best interest in avoiding him. I would agree with you.
So, all right, let's move on. And here's another, and I don't see, here's what I like to do. We don't have to, this is a little bit like the NFL draft, the way I do the show. I'm going to take the best topic on the board. I'm not just going to fill a need. Oh, we have to talk about the Super Bowl. No, this is stuff.
To talk about the NBA trade deadline.
Right. Bobby wants to talk about the NBA. He just wants to tee off. So I'll probably.
Real question. Probably a million people watched NFL, the Super Bowl yesterday. There might be about 600,000 that watched the NBA game night, NBA TV. I don't even know what game it is. It doesn't really matter. It's the NBA regular season game. And I see all these people talking about Tristan Thompson and some other guy I've never heard of.
I think Derrick Rose could be the piece the Lakers need to push them past the Clippers.
Right.
I'm in Michigan. Derrick Rose hasn't been relevant in a long time.
Right. Well, one quick point. How many millions of people do you think watch the NBA finals around the world compared to the millions of people who watch the Super Bowl? Because there ain't many people outside the borders of the United States watching the Super Bowl, Bobby. There just isn't. So I think that
there's not that many people in the border watching the NBA finals.
What's that? You're saying inside the borders? Right.
Well,
that's true, actually. I mean, to a certain extent.
What did it average last year? 17 million viewers? I mean,
look, let me ask you, Ryan. I haven't had a chance to ask you. Now that Bobby's dragged the NBA, he just dragged it in here right in the middle of the room and just left it and walked out the room. But I want to ask you, when it comes to the NBA ratings, and you're kind of an expert on these. I know you both are experts on this, but we're always talking about linear television ratings. It's like 2003 ratings kind of talk to me when we're talking about the NBA ratings. I mean, how many people are sitting down in a room and planning their whole week like they would the NFL? There's a lot more people doing that with the NBA, watching games the way you would watch the NFL. It's streaming, it's social media. Isn't it unfair just to take these NBA rating numbers and compare them?
Like, at some point, they have to figure out a way to harness all of this social media attention into a way that drives revenue for the league. And so right now, their biggest revenue drivers are TV ratings. Like, they have a $2.4 billion annual TV contract. And so when the rights holders are seeing declines, that's going to be a gigantic story. Now, I mean, I guess, what do they do in the next deal, which is 6 years away? Like, could they make a deal with Google and YouTube where, like, I think by 2027 NBA season, I think a vast majority of the audience are going to have TVs with like Roku or Chromecast or whatever else in them, and you'll be able to pretty easily use a remote control and watch something on YouTube on your television. Like, I have a 1-year-old, and she knows when I switch the function from normal TV to YouTube. So it means I'm about to show her an Elmo video. And so like, I think that
awesome.
this is going to be like technology that's pretty widespread adopted over the next 7 years. And it'll be interesting to see if the NBA explores having non-traditional rights partners at that time. If there's any league that would do it, it's them. And the fact that they come up a couple years after everybody else in the rights cycle, like you could see maybe like a Google or a Facebook or an Amazon being into the idea of like going full reach with them. So we'll have to see. But as far as like ratings being a story now, look, they're down double digits. When you're down double digits, people are going to talk about it. And if they get LeBron in the finals, then their playoffs are going to be up. And they'll have a good story to tell. That's just kind of the way this works.
But you know, and Bobby, I want to real quick. I want to address this one more time with you. The cord cutting and the over the air nature of what we have with cable versus over the air. NFL is appointment watching. You plan it in advance. You've got the Sunday. You've got the Sunday night. Everybody is gonna get ready to go in the family room, whatever it is. You're much more likely to do that, right? And it's over the air. You're telling me that's not an advantage for the NFL over the NBA, which is really precisely the opposite.
You're right, and that's the issue. These NBA games, people aren't setting their schedules around them because they don't care about the games. Yet these debate shows, morning shows, afternoon shows, they treat every NBA game like it's a game of consequence, more so than a lot of the NFL games. You're right. People aren't watching because these games don't matter as much. It's not worth spending 2.5 hours worth, but the media covers it like these people care, and the ratings just don't reflect that. So you're right. I think that's part of the issue. It's not the key issue.
He answered half of your question. He skipped the other half.
What? All right. What did he skip there? What did he?
He skipped the broadcast cable component, which is that a vast majority of NFL games are on broadcast TV, which are now in about 40 million more homes than NBA games. Look, Mark Cuban and Adam Silver have talked about this. I think there's been more and more games have been moving from ESPN to ABC, which is wider distributed over the last few years. Turner doesn't have a broadcast channel. That's going to be an issue for them when it comes to retaining their rights. But here's the thing. I'd compare NBA not to the NFL, but to MLB. The NBA nationally is much more relevant in terms of conversations that we're having. Like, you even had us on and asked us about like where Mookie Betts is going to get traded because most people, frankly, don't care. But the fact of the matter is that MLB games regionally dominate NBA games. Right. Like in the 7 markets where there's both MLB and NBA teams, MLB wins in the 7 biggest markets. MLB wins 6 of them. In the 17 markets that have them both, MLB wins head-to-head in 14 of those 17 markets. And that's on a per-game basis. And then you take into account that there's twice as many MLB games. And also 1.5 times as many people go to an average MLB game as an average NBA game. And you could say, okay, well, the stadiums are bigger than the arenas. But the fact of the matter is that if they could fill bigger arenas, they'd build bigger arenas. So
Right. What about, now that you brought that up, because it's something I wanted to drop in. What about Sinclair? What's taken? I don't know, Bobby, if you've got any intel on this either, but what about, I want to ask you both real fast about this. What about Sinclair? What's taking so long in rebranding this thing to Stadium, whatever they're going to do? If this is as good a business, I'm not denying what you're saying. It's all correct, Ryan. But if this is a great business, it sounds like it. What is Sinclair waiting for?
Yeah, my understanding is there is belief around the industry that those RSNs have peaked. I don't know if I agree with that, but there is some belief about that. I've heard Sinclair has major goals for these RSNs, though. They want to turn them into not just a place where you can watch your local sports teams, but also some local sports coverage. I think they're going to do a lot more with those RSNs than Fox did, which pretty much just aired reruns. I think it's going to create jobs for media people. So I'm very excited about seeing what they do.
What do you mean? Like shows during the day, or like
they're going to use Stadium, which is like kind of now mostly OTT channel that Sinclair operates, and they're going to use that studio in Chicago to build a bunch of new
Now,
shows.
you know that,
they
but
air on the
they haven't
RSN.
done it yet. But they haven't gotten to it yet. You know that's going to happen?
I would say I am reasonably sure.
Okay. I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but that was kind of one of my big points. I agree 100% what you're saying. And I think that is going to happen. But I'm just wondering, guys, is there a reason for a delay? Because we're getting close to baseball season.
They need to get their deal done with Dish Network somehow.
And Comcast.
And Comcast is coming up, but I can't see Comcast going out of that. Look, live sports is what keeps the bundle intact. And that's like anybody who is still a cable subscriber, by and large, is like these RSNs get like the baseball shows. If you add it up compared to like the baseball games compared to everything else, if you add it up in almost all of these markets, more people are watching those than almost anything else. It would be suicide for them to not carry those.
So we've covered the NBA, we've covered Sinclair, we've covered the Super Bowl, and I want to give you guys the last word. Whatever you're covering, whatever you're thinking, Bobby, any thoughts about anything as we head on down the road here?
We talked about the NBA on broadcast TV. They have a game again this Saturday on ABC. I have a prediction for both of you. The XFL on Fox and ABC is going to rate better in that NBA game.
Wait,
I'm going
just
to
week
point it out.
one, or is like week 6 at XFL? Do you think week 6 XFL is going to beat the NBA on ABC?
I don't know yet. We'll have to see. But I'm predicting
coin flip.
Call week 6. Calling week 1, where there's a lot of interest in the debut to see what it looks like before we all realize that it's bad football again, is different than week 6.
What say you, Bobby? Week 6. I think it's a coin flip.
Depends who's playing in the NBA, because only one team is of any interest to anybody. If it's not a Lakers team, I think
come on,
who else matters?
I'll say this much. Let me just say this: the Rockets have been a huge disappointment. I think that was something that people were banking on. Zion, look, we could do another hour. I wish we could do another hour with you guys. You guys are outstanding, but I love that angle, the XFL thing, and that's a very, very, very interesting discussion point. Anything on your mind, Ryan, as we wind things down?
Yeah, I want to take a victory lap. I broke that the Barstool was going to sell to a gambling company. People said my story wasn't true. It was true. And I want to, I'm just very interested in whether they're going to be able to get 20-somethings and 30-somethings into the doors of a casino, because I like going to casinos, but I go there and I'm the youngest person there by 20 years. The CEO of Penn National, when they acquired it, said our average customer is mid-50s and getting older. Can they host a Barstool show at Greektown in Detroit, draw a bunch of people to watch them, and then have those people go gamble? That's what I want to
answer the question. First of all, Bobby, let him finish. I want to get your opinion, Bob. Can they do that? Go ahead, Ryan. Go ahead. Can they get those guys in there? Can you hear me?
Go ahead.
I'm terribly sorry. Go ahead, Bobby.
I was just asking the question. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
That's what
I'm sorry.
To see.
I apologize. Bobby, go ahead. And what do you think?
Yeah, 2 responses. First of all, I already go to Greektown, Detroit. It's my favorite place to go on a Saturday night. I'll be there anyway, just to throw that out there so everybody knows. But I think that it was a good move for these casinos. Barstool has such we talked about this many times, but they have such a dedicated audience. I think whatever they do, it's going to draw. If they tell their fans, hey, we're going to have a show, or we're going to be involved in this casino, they'll go and check out. The Stoolies will go wherever Barstool is. And even Dave Portnoy's harshest haters, they had to give him a congrats last week with that sell. The second biggest winner is the industry. How cool is it that somebody built this from a newspaper to almost a $500 million company? That's not easy to do. And it just shows you Barstool has been able to become players in this up against major companies, Disney, Fox. Now, obviously, they don't have the rights. They're not as big as those. But as far as in the conversation, they have talents that are as newsworthy as a lot of people at ESPN, Fox, NBC, CBS, and SiriusXM. It's a win for the industry.
I'm not going to give another opinion because then we'll go another 5-10 minutes. And you guys are awesome. This has been amazing. It's a great thing. I can't thank you enough for popping in. Thanks for your patience on it. That's Ryan Glatspiegel. Thanks again, Bobby. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. That's Bobby Burak of the Big Lead and Ryan Glatspiegel of the of the Big Lead. And so that's going to do it for today. That's going to do it for this show. I want to thank Cam Smith and everybody at Fancred for making this happen. It's been a great experience, and we've got a chance to connect with a lot of great guests, interesting people over the past 5 months. So again, thanks to everybody involved. Thanks to you, of course, namely, most importantly, for listening, all of our guests, and of course, Cam Smith for doing an incredible job over these past few months. And that's going to do it from a very, very cold Los Angeles. And my name is Brooks Melchior, reminding you this has been Sports by Brooks on Fancred.